Hello everyone, today I'm putting a DCC decoder in this Cado 464, and the steps I'm going to do will work probably on any DC engine that you want to convert to DCC. This is the decoder that I'm going to be using. It's the Excel Systems 1961. So it comes with really good instructions. As you can see, explains to you what is what and how to install it. And there's also all the CV tables and the function tables are here. So that's all good to have. The installation instructions look pretty easy to me. So you have red and black from the track, orange and gray that go to the motor, and white and yellow for the front light and the rear light. So you have your track power here. Let me put a couple of cross ties on there for you. And you have your motor, the 2 leads for the motor. All you gotta do is put your decoder in the middle of that. And then you can wire your lights. So that's pretty much it. So from the decoder, you have the 2 track power leads, the 2 motor leads, and the 2 front and back lights. And the speaker comes already wired for you. So that should be pretty easy. Now the motor that this little guy has is a little bit tired. So I'm going to be using my donor engine here to use its motor. So it's another Con-Cor 464, but it's from the rail bearing connection. So what that means is it's got blackened wheels. So this little guy's motor should be almost new. So I won't be focusing too much on the video on this, because I've done this before. You can go back and watch the video for that. And then just remove the shell. So I'm going to be using this one. The rail bearing collection, they have a little light at the front here. So I think I'm going to reuse that. I'm using an old Cado box just to hold my parts. Now that I've sorted out what I want to do for my motor, I'm going to work mostly on the tender here. So as you can see, there's plenty of room for my speaker and my decoder. On this particular engine, the power is picked up from the rear. Now, some of these Bachmanns, a lot of Bachmann engines also pick up from the tender. So that's good. That's going to allow me to pick up track power and send it to my motor. There's a little plate that holds your contact strips down. And then you have your contact strips. This is going to require a bit of soldering. So I'm going to take out the old wires. I'm not going to do too much soldering on camera, but this is easy enough that I can do it and still have you guys watch it. So there, now my engine's free, and now I can work on installing my controller. I'm gonna take a minute to do little parentheses. Let's say you have one of these model power, either the 462 or the 282, or if you have the There's a 440 or 460 that's available. These are already pre-wired for you for DCC. You just remove these two little screws, and then you should be able to have access to the shell. So once you have the shell off, it becomes quite obvious. So these two wires, they come from the tender pickups. These two wires come from the engine track pickups. And then you have two more wires going straight to your motor. So very easy to convert that to DCC. This is my NCE power cab manual. It too has a diagram for how to wire your DCC decoders. So you can see forward and then left side and right side. So the right side should be red and the left side should be black. I'm not sure this matters entirely because you can program the motor with the decoder to go forward and back or switch it around. So I'm going to follow the instructions as best I can. But then again, if you get it wrong, you can reprogram your decoder to switch it around. Now this is my main drive unit. I'm going to have to take it apart because I need to insulate some of its components. So I'm going to take you to the steps of that. So once you remove the shell, you remove the weight, this is what you get. So I already removed the brakes from it. Once you removed this plate with the brakes, the two trailing truck and pilot truck come out. And then you're left with this. So before I can remove the drivers, I have to remove all the side rods. So these are all snapped in. So you have to go very, very carefully, pry them out. And you need to have a box so you don't lose them. They're very, very small. So you do not want to lose them. So you put them in your box. And this is the main driver. Main driver has all the valve gear. So these, put them in your box too. It's a little bit bigger. So you want to go gently with this because they're such good runners. You don't really want to mess them up. I've got quite a few of these 464s. Easily, it's my favorite locomotive. So I'm just gonna drop the rod with my little pin. Then once you have this rod out, the piston pin comes out. And then I can do the same for the other side. This little engine is very, very dirty, but we're gonna work on this. We're gonna remove the valve gear now. Start by removing the cylinders. And then the pistons and the valve gear comes out nice and easy, just like that. And that too has to be cleaned. And then I've got my rod for the valves. So that goes in the box, and then we do the same thing for the other side. Once you have all the rods and pistons out, the locomotive looks much simpler. Now you can remove your drivers. These are easy to remove. You have to pay more attention when you put them back together. You can see it's seen better days. The two electrical pickups, they've been soldered and resoldered again. And the people did okay job, but an average job. You can see the two screws here. That will allow me to split the frame. I have to do this in order to re-insulate everything. So that's not too hard to do. It's just like your regular split frame. And then there's a couple of idler gears in there, but the motor should just fall out. Oh, you know what I forgot? There's a plate here that holds down your worm gear. So that's holding the frame together. This is not very hard to remove, but still it's there, and it was holding me back. Whenever you're working in engines, as a rule, don't put too much strength on it. The end scale is very small, so anytime you have to pry hard, that's not a good sign. So it's just stuck together a little bit. I'll work on it off camera. So the motor was glued to the frame. So that's very unusual. I've never seen that before. They certainly don't come like that from Kato. I'm just stuck on my screw just a little bit. We're almost out. There we go. Don't forget there's little insulators that go in there. These are pretty important. And once you have that out, you have the two little idlers. You have two little idlers. And there's a main reduction gear here and your worm gear. And then after that, the motor's free. So I don't know why you would want to glue this. But there you go. You have your two frame halves. The whole engine is coated in scenery foam, so I'm going to clean this up with my toothbrush and some dish soap. I'm also going to clean the worm gear, but the motor I will not. I'll clean it with my rag as best as I can. I do not put this under the water, nor will I use steel wool anywhere near it. If you use steel wool, the magnets will attract the small particles and then you're buggered. So I bench tested my motor. Turns out it's in bad shape. I could solder my leads onto here. These are the main leads for the commutator. I could solder it onto here, but I don't like to do that because it will come in and damage my plastic block here for the commutator, so I don't like to do that. I prefer to take the wire brushes. I prefer to take the brushes out to do that. And that's a tricky operation because what ends up happening is there's a little spring in there that puts pressure on the brushes, and that is very small and it's very easy to lose it. So I'm just going to loosen these up off camera. Oh, look at that. I got lucky a little bit there. There was a little pin while I was working on getting my commutator out. There was a little pin that fell out. So that was blocking my motor from running. So I don't know what this is, whether it's a track nail or some type of a pin, but that definitely doesn't belong in the motor. So now that that's out, the motor runs great. I'm still gonna lubricate it though. I still need to remove the brushes. This is what they look like. there's a little spring in there, tiny little spring that pushes the brush up against the contact. So it's very easy to lose, and if you lose it, your engine will not run. See, mine fell out, so it even managed to get loose on me. So you do not want to lose them. So to lubricate this, you just put a drop there and another one on the other side, and then I'll just spin it with my hands because the commutator is off of it. I can't test it to make sure it runs, but I'll be putting that back on shortly. This is where my motor sits, so that has to be insulated with some Kapton tape. Also here, this contacts my light, so that too has to be insulated. So this is a little contact pin for the motor, and this would go to my tender. Now I'm going to be putting the orange and the gray leads from my decoder on here. So I soldered the gray and orange wire to the leads for the motor. I'm going to start reassembling some of these things together. These have to go through here. There's a little path for it, and I have to put it back on the motor like so. So because it's very tedious and small work, I have to do it off camera. So it's coming along. I've got my motor wired. Now I'm going to do the pickups. I also soldered my red and black wire to the leads that take power from the track. And I took a minute to install them right back in the tender with its proper weight so it could make contact with the track. Now I'm far along enough that I would like to try the decoder just to make sure everything is going good. At this point I just got a big mess of wires, but I'm going to be managing that in a little bit. So now I have it all wired in, so I just pressed the select loco N3. So I got my headlight hooked up, I got my bell and the horn, and then so everything works. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. Now I'm just going to do all the wire management and install all the parts of the locomotive back on. Oh yeah, there goes the pop valve, I guess. Nice. So I'm taking a little bit of time to have my wires managed neatly. Now everything is going to fit in neatly under my shell. So I got my wires nicely tucked in. I'm going to put my pilot truck in the trailing truck. I've got all my side rods in there. Now I can put my shell back on. And now it's time to run some trains. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had fun making it for you. See you soon.